The British royal family, long considered an unshakable pillar of the nation, finds itself at the epicenter of an unprecedented crisis. A multitude of scandals, deep divisions, and fierce, at times irreconcilable, conflicts raging within the palace walls threaten to undermine the very foundations of the monarchy, casting doubt on its future. At the heart of this storm, acting like a lightning rod, is Queen Camilla, whose unyielding and rigid stance towards young Prince Louis has ignited a series of upheavals. The tension within the royal family has reached a critical point, and behind the carefully guarded palace doors, truly dramatic events are unfolding, the outcome of which could profoundly impact the future of the British crown. Of particular concern is the further escalation of the already strained relationship between King Charles and Queen Camilla. According to reliable sources close to the court, the couple is now virtually unable to engage in calm and constructive dialogue. Each attempt at communication, unfortunately, invariably escalates into sharp and emotional arguments. It is alleged that Camilla, having exhausted her patience, has significantly increased her control over all members of the royal family, which in turn has sparked a notable wave of indignation and discontent among courtiers. One of the most contentious issues has been the approach to privacy versus public presence. The expert community is increasingly concerned that Queen Camilla's current behavior is beginning to seriously threaten the British monarchy's already fragile reputation. Her public statements and actions are frequently interpreted as an overt display of power and personal authority, causing deep dissatisfaction not only among the general public, but notably within the royal family itself. Behind palace doors, suspicions are circulating that Queen Camilla is consciously distancing herself from King Charles, aiming to solidify her own influence and authority within the royal household. Meanwhile, King Charles, loyal to centuries-old traditions, is actively attempting to preserve their inviolability. However, many perceive his efforts as a desperate, perhaps even doomed, attempt to cling to slipping power. Such divergences in views and strategies lead to even greater alienation within the family, plunging the monarch into a state of deep isolation. Amidst this complex and multifaceted family drama, and unexpectedly for many, Prince Louis, despite his very young age, has become a true apple of discord. His defiance of accepted norms and occasionally mischievous behavior have become fertile ground for constant and sharp conflicts. Queen Camilla, for her part, is firmly convinced that only strict and uncompromising discipline can be the sole effective method to curb the restless young prince. However, her chosen methods of upbringing, being so harsh and uncompromising, are causing clear dissatisfaction and even resistance from other family members. This internal division within the royal household is only exacerbated by the fact that Prince Louis, unknowingly, has effectively become a symbol of the chaos and disorder now gripping Westminster. Within the palace walls, unseen by outsiders, a real, fierce power struggle has unfolded, in which Queen Camilla is taking deliberate steps to strengthen her position, actively leveraging her accumulated influence and numerous connections. Her deliberate strategy is clearly aimed at suppressing any criticism and further increasing control over all aspects of palace life, which understandably causes serious concern among those who genuinely care about the monarchy's future. Such maneuvers, unfortunately, only deepen the already gaping chasm between King Charles and Queen Camilla, irreversibly destroying the image of unity, cohesion, and unshakable stability that is so vital for the British crown. The developing situation threatens not only deep family ties, but also the entire future of the monarchical system. All these endless feuds, clashes of opinion, and internal contradictions are forcing society to question Camilla's next steps and the decisive role Charles is meant to play in preserving the age-old traditions of royal power. Insiders close to the palace claim that the escalating tension in the relationship between Charles and Camilla is beginning to have a tangible impact not only on their personal lives, but also on the overall reputation of the entire monarchy, shaping its image in the eyes of its subjects. Public disagreements between the royal couple inevitably attract close media attention, which in turn undermines the royal family's stability and public perception. These constant disputes create an atmosphere of uncertainty and apparent weakness around the monarchy, directly threatening trust in the British Crown and its ability to confidently maintain its position and authority in modern society. Each new escalation of the conflict only exacerbates this fragile situation. A similar, no less alarming situation is observed within the royal family itself. Camilla, seeking to strengthen her position and influence, is engaging in open confrontations with other members of the monarchical dynasty. This behavior causes deep division and significantly increases tension between the various factions forming within the palace, creating fertile ground for new, even sharper disagreements. This internal conflict, developing before the eyes of the entire world, is becoming increasingly evident, generating disagreements that many believe are impossible to resolve. Such a state of affairs casts serious doubt on the royal family's ability to maintain unity and authority in the long term. Experts and informed insiders warn that if the current situation does not undergo fundamental changes, the monarchy could face profound and irreversible transformations capable of altering its very essence. Long-term instability in the marital relationship between Charles and Camilla could lead to extremely serious consequences for the entire monarchical system, endangering its historical place in society and its future. Uncertainty and a lack of consensus among key figures of the dynasty could result in the British Crown being unable to adequately adapt to new challenges of the time, losing its relevance and influence. Insiders themselves unanimously assert that these internal conflicts have become a kind of alarming signal, a harbinger of possible fundamental changes within the monarchical structure. Perhaps the moment has come to reconsider established roles and age-old traditions to restore the crown's former strength, unwavering authority, and public respect. However, without significant reforms and a willingness to compromise between Charles and Camilla, the future of the British monarchy remains largely vague and uncertain. Camilla's behavior, in turn, consistently attracts close attention from both the media and the general public, only exacerbating the pressure on the royal couple. Constant rumors and negative headlines filling publications create a persistent image of disunity and internal discord within the ruling dynasty. In an atmosphere of deep disunity, the royal family, according to many observers, faces significant difficulties in confronting modern challenges. King Charles and Queen Camilla's approach to addressing pressing issues is often perceived as outdated, and their attempts to overcome crises as ineffective and completely out of step with the times. In an era when the global world is undergoing rapid and sometimes dizzying changes, the monarchical institution requires leaders with an exceptional ability to adapt. However, many analysts and experts unanimously assert that the current rulers do not fully meet these vital requirements. Moreover, internal conflicts tearing apart the palace create a very unhealthy, truly toxic atmosphere within its walls. The incessant disputes and disagreements between Charles and Camilla have a detrimental effect on the morale and general atmosphere among palace staff, generating a sense of disorder and deep unease. This chronic tension, in turn, inevitably undermines the monarchy's authority, weakening its position and deteriorating the overall stability of the system. As for Queen Camilla, some sources close to the royal court claim that her personal ambitions sometimes sharply conflict with King Charles's plans and vision, becoming the cause of new points of tension within the family. Such constant clashes of interests and power struggles only exacerbate the already complex situation, making the achievement of unity within the royal family seem increasingly impossible. These deep internal disagreements cause noticeable irritation and concern among senior members of the royal family, further increasing the general tension within the palace. King Charles and Queen Camilla, apparently, cannot find effective mechanisms to manage the current situation, which turns family conflicts into even more agonizing and prolonged ones. All these internal upheavals, of course, inevitably affect the external perception of the royal family. Frequent public manifestations of these disagreements inevitably become the subject of close attention in heated discussions in the press, forming in the public consciousness an image of a monarchy that appears unstable and weakened. Such negative perception can have very serious and long-term consequences for the future of the monarchy and its status in British society. Against this backdrop, royal insiders are already openly sounding the alarm. If King Charles and Queen Camilla cannot find common ground and resolve their relationship, the potential consequences could be truly catastrophic. The disagreements between the couple, in the opinion of insiders, pose a direct threat to the stability of the entire monarchical system. The protracted crisis could provoke large-scale structural changes, or even, in the worst-case scenario, lead to the complete collapse of the institution of monarchy. Such a scenario threatens serious political and social upheavals that will inevitably affect the entire United Kingdom. Experts in constitutional law and history are unanimously convinced that to preserve the monarchy, Charles and Camilla will have to set aside personal grievances and all existing disagreements between them, putting the interests of the crown above all else. Only by uniting can they restore respect for monarchical authority and strengthen public trust. However, against the backdrop of multiplying contradictions and a heated atmosphere, achieving this goal seems an extremely difficult task. Genuine reconciliation will require significant effort and a fundamental rethinking of established approaches to managing the affairs of the kingdom. The disagreements between the king and queen create a climate of instability that extends not only to their personal relationship, but also to the entire royal family. According to insider sources, the lack of unity and agreement fatally weakens the monarchy's position, making it vulnerable to both external and internal threats. Such a state of affairs could provoke further division and increase tension among other family members. Moreover, the endless conflicts in the royal household gradually undermine the morale of its inhabitants. In an atmosphere of mutual distrust and hidden animosity, the once strong unity disintegrates, turning into separate factions, each pursuing its own interests. This not only inflicts irreparable damage on the monarchy's reputation, but also makes its future extremely uncertain. According to circulating rumors, Camilla is steadily strengthening her position, gaining increasing independence at court. Her expanding influence and desire to directly manage family affairs directly contradict traditional foundations and roles. Such a stance creates additional friction with Charles and other members of the royal family, further deepening the existing chasm between them. Public opinion is also not immune to what is happening. Dissatisfaction and disappointment with the behavior of the king and queen are growing daily. Britons expect stability and cohesion from the monarchy, but instead are witnessing a series of endless scandals and internal intrigues. This only increases the pressure on Charles and Camilla, further shaking the foundation of their union. Scandals, intrigues, and an irreconcilable power struggle. A true conflagration is erupting within the royal family. What began as minor disagreements is rapidly escalating into open animosity. Family members seem ready to go to great lengths, fighting for influence and control over the crown. King Charles is enduring exceptionally difficult times. A cold emptiness, devoid of former love, has settled in his heart. Where strong emotions once raged, disappointment now reigns supreme. The monarch feels his inner energy gradually fading, leaving him captive to apathy and deep fatigue. Camilla, who in times past served as a source of inspiration for him, now apparently has lost the ability to rekindle the fervent passion and former fire that once filled their life together. The situation involving young Prince Louis served as a kind of detonator, sparking another round of heightened tension in the royal family. Queen Camilla, unable to control her surging emotions, very sharply and even rudely reprimanded Charles's youngest grandson for his seemingly harmless childish pranks. The Queen's sharp and uncompromising words, spoken publicly, not only shocked the child himself, but also caused silent astonishment among all who inadvertently witnessed this unpleasant incident. One can only imagine this regrettable scene, a defenseless, innocent boy, merely playing in the expansive palace courtyard, suddenly found himself under a barrage of angry tirade. Such behavior undoubtedly casts a shadow of doubt on her true role in the royal family and forces many to wonder if the Queen has overstepped acceptable boundaries in her ambitions, and if she has forgotten who she truly is in the established hierarchy. Such an incident, of course, could not go unnoticed. Behind the ceremonial walls of the palace, in private circles, conversations are increasingly heard that Camilla seems to be losing both her own control over the situation and her once strong influence. Her clearly destructive behavior, carrying potential threats, is forcing Charles himself to seriously reconsider his attitude towards his wife, before her reckless actions can lead to even more serious and irreversible consequences for the entire British monarchy. Christmas holidays within the walls of the royal palace have always traditionally been associated with dazzling splendor, opulent and luxurious decorations, and a unique atmosphere of warm family coziness. At first glance, nothing foreshadowed an impending storm. The ceremonial halls shone with the brilliance of countless garlands, and the melodious sounds of traditional Christmas carols solemnly filled the air. It seemed that the very spirit of Christmas was capable of uniting all present under the majestic mantle of royal power and traditions. However, behind these sparkling festive decorations lay a completely different, harsher reality. Tension, which had been subtly building for many in the shadow of gilded chandeliers, ultimately erupted into a dramatic confrontation that shook not only the royal family members themselves but the entire court to its core. While numerous courtiers happily enjoyed exquisite festive banquets, behind the tightly closed doors of the palace chambers, something entirely different was unfolding, hidden from prying eyes. And at the very center of this escalating story, as it turned out, was none other than Prince Louis, the youngest offspring of Prince William and Kate Middleton. Usually charming yet quite restless, Louis, according to circulating rumors, this time seems to have crossed all acceptable boundaries, provoking a powerful wave of indignation from Queen Camilla. Prince Louis, despite his very young age, has long attracted the attention of the general public with his vibrant and sometimes unpredictable charismatic behavior. However, informed sources claim that this time his childish antics went far beyond what was permissible. Queen Camilla, according to rumors, was so deeply irritated by the young prince's behavior that she could not contain her emotions and very sharply reprimanded him for it. According to eyewitnesses, it all started with a completely innocent childish prank, which however gradually escalated into a tense situation. Being a child his age, young Louis did not always demonstrate the ability to strictly adhere to the rigorous norms of royal etiquette. This fact became a true test of Camilla's patience, at a certain point unable to contain her growing indignation any longer. Camilla openly told the boy everything she thought about his behavior and manners. Those present recall that the atmosphere at that moment literally froze, as if time itself had stopped. Even servants busy with their duties ceased all work, carefully listening to what was happening. Camilla, not hiding her clear irritation, hastily left the room, heading to an inner courtyard where she continued to express her outrage, now in complete solitude. However, the ensuing silence hanging in the room after her departure spoke much louder than any uttered words. Many courtiers are inclined to believe that Louis's behavior is merely a natural manifestation of his childish energy and liveliness. But there is another version, actively discussed behind closed doors. Some sources are convinced that Camilla perceives the younger members of the royal family as a potential threat to her influence and position. Of particular concern to her is Princess Charlotte, the young heiress who, insiders claim, remarkably resembles the legendary Princess Diana in her demeanor and mannerisms. Charlotte already attracts widespread attention and genuine public affection. Her natural confidence and innate grace inadvertently evoke associations with her late grandmother for many. Camilla is well aware of how powerful and pervasive Diana's shadow still looms over the entire royal family, and this only heightens her internal anxiety. The more attention and admiration William and Kate's children receive, the less significant and visible Camilla herself becomes in the eyes of the general public. According to circulating rumors, tension within the royal family is intensifying daily. King Charles, insiders report, is increasingly focused on the future of the dynasty, clearly placing his bets on Prince William and his children. Camilla, meanwhile, feels that she is gradually being marginalized from the center of key decision-making. Her irritation over Louis's behavior is merely the visible tip of an iceberg, concealing deep internal conflicts. Particularly alarming for Camilla is the fact that Charles increasingly spends time with his grandchildren, pointedly ignoring her attempts to intervene in the upbringing of the younger generation. Sources claim that during the recent Christmas holidays, Charles paid special attention to Charlotte and Louis, emphasizing their exceptional importance for the monarchy's future. This fact undoubtedly could not help but provoke strong envy in Camilla. The escalating confrontation reportedly reached its peak when, according to unconfirmed reports, King Charles delivered an ultimatum to Queen Camilla. Sources claim the monarch made it unequivocally clear that any negative remarks or criticism directed at Prince William and Princess Kate's children are entirely unacceptable and will not be tolerated. Furthermore, the king has reportedly made a strategic decision aimed at fully strengthening the position of the direct heirs, effectively relegating Camilla to a secondary role within the royal hierarchy. As part of this new, carefully considered strategy, His Majesty intends to rely significantly more on Prince William and Princess Kate as key central figures of the modern royal family. This truly pivotal decision has reportedly dealt a devastating blow to Camilla, who over many years had grown accustomed to playing one of the most prominent and influential roles at court. However, according to the unanimous opinion of leading monarchy experts, King Charles is keenly aware of the critical importance of the next generation's public popularity and is in no way prepared to risk this fundamental asset for his wife's personal ambitions. The atmosphere within the royal family reportedly remains extremely tense and unpredictable. Camilla now faces a new serious challenge. She must not only come to terms with William and Kate's steadily growing influence, but also find effective ways to maintain her significance and relevance as her role gradually, yet steadily, becomes increasingly symbolic. In fact, this ongoing royal drama is reportedly far from its logical conclusion. The only question is who will ultimately emerge victorious from this hidden but fierce struggle for power and influence: the current Queen Camilla, or the young, rapidly gaining strength generation of heirs to the throne. Reportedly, the British monarchy stands on the threshold of epical, profound changes. King Charles's decision to prioritize Prince William and his family has not merely shifted focus away from Camilla, it has effectively relegated her to the very background. Camilla reportedly feels her role rapidly diminishing, and this sense of isolation makes her feel like an outsider, as if she has become a stranger in her own home, at the very heart of the monarchy. Rumor has it that the Queen Consort perceives Charles's new decisive course as a deeply personal affront. She reportedly feels that her husband has betrayed her trust and many years of loyalty for the sake of political interests and maintaining the monarchy's precarious popularity. Camilla is convinced that her numerous contributions have been forgotten, and her influence is waning with each passing day. Now that the king is fully focused on William and Kate's future, Camilla reportedly feels superfluous, even at royal dinners among close family members. It is rumored that Camilla has repeatedly faced direct or indirect attempts to put her in her place. While Prince William was typically responsible for this in the past, Charles himself has now joined him, significantly worsening the Queen Consort's position. According to insiders, the king has begun to show greater firmness in response to Camilla's expressed discontent, and now decisively curtails her attempts to interfere in matters concerning the direct heirs to the throne. This practice, intended to clearly delineate her role and authority within the monarchical structure, is becoming increasingly evident. His Majesty, it is rumored, strongly disapproves of situations where his wife oversteps certain unspoken boundaries, attempting to impose her views on the upbringing of the royal grandchildren, or dictate her own rules regarding the formation and functioning of the future royal dynasty. Indeed, who could have imagined that within the walls of ancient palace residences, hidden from prying eyes, such serious passions would simmer and genuine dramas unfold? It turns out that even among the most powerful and titled families, internal conflicts, subtle intrigues, and a hidden struggle for influence and primacy are inevitable. Queen Camilla, who, by all accounts, long skillfully played the role of an unofficial but highly influential gray eminence, is now reportedly forced to contend with significant resistance from the monarch's inner circle and blood relatives. Such internal clashes and disagreements undoubtedly provoke deep reflection on the future fate and stability of the British monarchy and its ability to adapt to modern challenges. Will King Charles and Prince William, central figures of the succession, be able to find the necessary balance of interests and consolidate their efforts to ensure the inviolability and continuity of the monarchical institution? Or will the accumulated contradictions only deepen existing rifts, leading to even greater disunity within the ruling dynasty? This dilemma undoubtedly remains in the public spotlight, without a clear resolution yet. Will Queen Camilla, in turn, manage to accept this new, possibly less influential reality and come to terms with her clearly defined position in the hierarchy? Or will her personal aspirations and ambitions continue to be a source of unceasing tension and internal strife within the royal household?